By moving across the world, it was certainly difficult not to lean on our own understanding and to depend on God and put our understanding and trust in Him throughout the entire process.
You become a different person.
The work that I put in helped me defy all those odds.
Trusting God was the biggest part.
3, 2, 1, action.
Other kids made it very aware that I was different.
What makes me proud of my culture is
our decision to move around the world. It's been a long process. It started about 12 years ago now.
We actually felt, we felt a calling from God to go tell other people about the love of God. And so an opportunity opened up for us to go overseas.
Moving from place to place obviously affects different dynamics, both good and bad.
The biggest struggle moving country to country was the feeling of being uprooted and trying to find our bearings again. Each place we went had different language, different culture, and trying to fit into the new place was sometimes a struggle.
So the age of 6, when we first moved overseas, that was definitely new to me. I didn't quite understand what was happening. All I knew is that we were selling our things, having garage sales and getting rid of things, and hopped on an airplane and moved over to a place called Hungary.
The life living in Hungary was different because it was very structured. We didn't eat meals at home. We ate them as a family in the cafeteria. Sometimes the kids would sit with their friends and hang out as a group. The kids also had a lot more free time outside and would just roam as a gang of children.
Which was quite fascinating because half the times that was half of our children, half of the kids' names were Hungary. So we moved to this country named Hungary. So anytime I ask my mom I'm hungry, she says so is the country. And we moved to this small town named it's called Vajta. And it was cool too. It was eye-opening, I suppose would be a word to describe it. And it was neat to create new connections and find discover new people.
Hungary was a very nice place. We lived on campus with a lot of Americans, so in some ways it wasn't as challenging as some of our other moves.
Because most everyone on the campus that we were living spoke English, and they were all missionaries just like us, so I didn't have to learn Hungarian at that time. So I never learned Hungarian. I might have learned a few phrases here and there, but Hungarian never became a second language for me.
One of the struggles leaving Hungary was again being uprooted from all of our friends and the family that we'd made there. It was also very exciting because we knew we weren't going to live in Hungary forever, so it felt like we were moving to the next thing, and it was more of an adventure.
And learn that English is not everyone's language, and it was fascinating.
The thing I miss most about Hungary is probably the simplicity of life. There wasn't as many outside struggles that we had to deal with. Everything was provided. So life was very fun in Montenegro. We lived by the water. We were part of a Bible study. They really enjoyed having us and having the kids. They had a youth ministry, and so the kids got to fold into what they were doing almost immediately. I miss the water in Montenegro. It was fun to live in such a beautiful area, and then I also miss the people.
COVID affected us in Serbia, a little different because they had lockdowns.
I would not do COVID anywhere else. It was a little different because we had actual lockdowns where the buses stopped running and we were not allowed to leave our houses.
We had curfews. We couldn't leave our property after certain hours, and the police would patrol, keep us in the place. But it was actually really good for our family
So we actually played games and listened to audiobooks. So there was actually a sweetness during COVID.
As it now forced us to slow down, because when we went over there, we were full bore doing ministry and just bouncing from one place to the next, and for the first year. And so when that kind of came in, it was good for our family. It was tough for our neighborhood. We saw a lot of people. So Serbia is very multi-generational as far as families. They don't have like old folk homes and whatever. It's all within the family, 3 generations and whatnot. And so that affects things. And so a lot of older generation, a lot of people were passing away in our area from that. So that was a tough thing to see. And so again, that changes you and how you view the community and whatnot.
So my teachers in Serbia, when I went to public school, treated me very graciously. It was such a unique experience, and it was new to me that the teachers were very patient with my education.
He had to adjust to a new way of living when we were in Serbia. He went to school and didn't know the language, so he had to learn how to communicate with others with very limited knowledge with very limited ability to communicate.
They would assign certain tests aside for me in English so that I could understand what I was doing, and they would assign me different coursework occasionally, and it was helpful in my learning. And they treated me overall with a lot of love and grace, and I really appreciated that.
He made friends. He was in school, so he had a lot of relationships that he'd made.
Kids were very well mannered for the most part. People would get along with me, and I suppose the majority of the time, the friends I would make were more curious in my life and who I was and why I was there, above all else, and that was unique. And only a few friends, Serbians, I encountered became close friends, and I was able to talk with them on a one-on-one basis on a very real manner, and it was nice to have that connection with those Serbians. But yeah, overall, kids were very polite and well-mannered, and of course you'll come across kids naturally as people can be very open and blunt at times, so I had to deal with that as well, and their questions. And as a 12-year-old, I didn't always have all the answers, so I would answer them to the best of my capabilities. But in reality, fitting in was difficult sometimes, because once you know them for enough time, they lose curiosity, and so you will do what you can to please them so you can keep that connection. And it wasn't necessarily the best, like anyone trying to fit in with a new group, is you're changing yourself to be associated with this group simply because you desire friends, or you desire connection with others. And that wasn't necessarily the greatest thing for me, but it was definitely a learning block in my life.
Sports have always been a big part of our family.
Our whole life revolved around sports over there.
Watching Benjamin be able to have a team to lean on, and just having a place to pour out his passion has been very, very good.
How did Ben impact the charter football program?
Mainly with his leadership skills. He's someone who does it by example, but he also did it vocally. He can be very inspirational when he wants to be.
I thought he earned it with him always showing up, him always being a leader, and always having a great personality.
He really stepped up this year by leading the team. He was really our only leader in general, and everyone, when he talked, everyone listened.
I remember that being eye-opening. Okay, it's a very fast-paced. I have to be ready at all times, and learning that I have to be prepared at all times, and it was definitely a good experience. I learned a lot just through that few months, a short amount of time of sports, and it was definitely eye-opening, and it was a lot of hard work involved, but it was worth it.
I think Ben's a good role model for an adult my age. He's disciplined. His faith is very motivating to see somebody that can be that dedicated to something. And he's, as far as I know, he's a straight-A student. Works hard in the weight room, does the little things, communicates. He does a lot of things that we would probably call old school, but I think he's got the tools, these old school tools, that are going to make him very successful.
That freshman year was a fun season. It was very healthy. I suppose would be a word to use, is that it was definitely a new experience, but it was a needed experience. I never experienced that type of camaraderie, that team building, that unity, and it pushed me physically more than I have ever experienced, and it got me into wanting to better myself physically, and pushing myself physically, and it was overall exciting. Yeah, I enjoyed it very much.
Watching Benjamin become more than he thought possible has been really, really powerful.
How I felt singing the national anthem in front of my school for the very first time was certainly unnerving.
Proud of him. I was like over the moon. I was so excited. I was like just taking videos, and I was kind of showing him off to everyone, being that kind of sister.
I think it's really cool. Like, I never expected any of this, and he's now like out singing the national anthem. That's a really cool experience in front of hundreds of people.
For the land of the free and the home of the brave.
How was it to be self-taught with music? Yeah, I suppose fun is a word to use to describe it. It was fun to be self-taught, to learn things, that just to discover things on my own, figuring it out. Of course, being self-taught doesn't mean I just figured out how to play the guitar and chords, but I would find ways to learn, such as the internet, YouTube, but still I don't have all music figured out, and I still learn, but I have excelled in that just through practice, and that's how I bettered in anything. Just with singing, I've learned just by singing, by doing it. It's the best way to excel in something is to do it, and the best way to excel in something is to gain experience. So in music, if it's something you love to do, then giving yourself experience and time to experience it is a way to better yourself. And I was bettered myself is just by playing music by myself, and listening to music, hearing sounds, hearing it from other songs, and being inspired by how they did things. Like in the guitar, I learned hammer-ons just by I listened to a song. I think it was an Ed Sheeran song, "I See Fire," and I learned the hammer-on, and I've kind of used hammer-ons more. You won't understand that term unless you play the guitar, but learning different ways, or how to sing, like way people use their voices, like riffs or falsetto, or vibrato. And I understood those terms later on, but I picked it up from songs before I learned about what it was that I was doing. And so it's just more of an observation again. Music was more observation for me, and I would observe. When I tore my ACL in football, that next day when I got it checked out, I was reminiscing the summer when I broke my thumb, and going through that again and understanding, okay, I'm going to take this one day at a time, see how I feel. It didn't quite hit me till 2 weeks later after the 2 weeks after the injury that it really started to affect me.
When Benjamin initially got injured, well, first I thought it was temporary. I did not think that it was a long-term thing, but the fact that he showed pain told me it was serious, because he's able to push through a lot. So my heart broke when I realized that this was going to be the end of his playing for the season.
Ben had came back from getting his results, and he was talking to Coach Laurel. He's not too well, so I'm like talking to Ben personally, like, "Hey Ben, what's up? Like, I heard you went to get your MRI, and what was the results?" He goes, "Apparently, like I tore my ACL." I'm like, "Oh," and I was just like heartbroken. I didn't want to tell him straight there, like, you can't play for the rest of the season, because I know that hurt him a lot. But in my head, I was like, just sad, because like seeing another teammate get the same injury I did kind of hurt a lot.
I was telling myself that I will be back. I will be back for at least the last game. I was trying to find some hope to hold on to and to be able to play again, play football, because it's my senior year, my last year. And what happens is 2 weeks later, I get the news that it's a torn ACL. We thought it was MCL or sprained knee, and it wasn't. It was a ruptured ACL and a torn meniscus. So that's when it hit me, and I realized that I'm not going to play again.
I was shocked. My first question was, is he okay? Is he going to be able to continue football or do baseball in the spring? And then he was saying, yeah, I will. And then I heard that he tore his ACL and it was done.
No, that was tough for him. I mean, he came, as you guys know, he was homeschooled, and he wanted to come here for his senior year to be part of like all the guys that he played sports with over the years, and so that was tough. That was tough for him to realize now that was taken away pretty quick.
Losing out on something that you love was definitely difficult, but unique about this is something that when I started to drift that day when Coach Laura told me, I started to drift back into some places that I remember I recalled being a couple of years ago or just the year before. And what I've learned from coming out of a dark place from before is I've learned that I don't have to be there. And I remember that day we got on the bus. I started reading some Psalms and just reading from David's perspective, some hope, and remembering that, okay, it's not always going to be this way. There are going to be better days. And that I don't have to drift back into the darkness, because from what I know is that Jesus, he already came in and he took that darkness. And that I don't have to dwell in that low state. And that's what brought hope back into my life. Is okay, I know this.
The neat thing about this injury was that God had seemed to prepare him for something hard. I can see that a lot of the struggles that he had already been through gave him the perspective that he needed. One of the conversations he and his dad had already had was, what if God asked you to give up everything that you love and everything you have? And so he had that perspective of, this might be different than what I had planned, but there's a purpose and there is a way out.
So the torn ACL it was more of a reminder. And it was reminding me to stay faithful to God and to abide in him. And when I tore my ACL, I felt as though God was telling me I need to rest, that I need to take this time to take a step back and observe. And there was it's a healthy time with an unhealthy knee, but it was definitely it's definitely worth it. I still think I'm still thankful that I tore my ACL. It might be hard to say, hard to hear, but I'm thankful that I tore my ACL because I don't know, I still don't understand why it would happen to me senior year, but I'm thankful because I don't see the bigger picture, not yet. And I know one day I will look back and I will see the bigger picture, and it'll make sense.
My favorite memory of Ben is freshman year football, his first ever year playing football. He's our quarterback that game when Bubba was out. He really stepped up and he really carried our offense that day and let us beat Lake Stevens C team.
I have a couple because one of my favorite memories with Ben is, I would say definitely before every football game this year, we would pray as a team, and he would always lead it. And I remember the first game, we're like, oh, he's just praying by himself in the middle of the field, and the whole team gathered around him, and we would lead the prayer with him. And one of my favorite memories with him is definitely, like I said, we went to camp at CW going into our junior year, and every night he would read the Bible, and I was like, hey, Ben, why don't you just kind of read out loud so we can both hear? So I would say one of my favorite memories is reading the Bible every night before going to bed at Central Camp.
Benjamin's childhood was, I would say, he's smack in the middle as a middle child, a family of 10. So he was always looking to draw attention, being goofy. He was, I would say, generally, I think he had a good childhood. Yeah, so many memories with him. I got a lot of goofy ones because he was the goofy kid, a really goofy kid up until just 4 years ago. But yeah, there's so many, again, story that we like to tell as a joke. Is one time we were, I think, just probably at the Safeway here in Marysville, and he was probably 4 years old, 5 years old, and he came out of the bathroom and he goes up to his mom. He says, "Mom, that guy in there, he has a big one." and Mom was like, "Oh, quiet down," because all the kids were there. He's like, quiet down. He's like, no, he got a big one. And they're all like, she's like, "Oh, you're embarrassing me. And shortly thereafter, this guy, the police officer, comes out with his big gun. And he's like, "See, look, he has a big gun." And it was just cute things like that. So Benjamin's always been full of that type of personality. A little bit clueless, because again, homeschool, you may not know all the cultural cues, but he is a lot of those little quirks. So yeah, fun kid.
I don't really have a favorite memory, but one memory that stands out to me is when we were little, about 4 and 5 years old, I tried to send him to the dump. I convinced him to climb into a dumpster and sit there for a long time, thinking, I could just get rid of him. Later on in life, we did end up becoming friends, and I completely regretted that.
My favorite thing about Benjamin being my sibling is he's super protective over me. Like, there was a time when I was like 2, a little bit younger than that, I was at a parade and a boy around my age came up to me and hugged me, and my brother came up, clenched his fist like he was about to throw his hands at him, and the boy walked away. He's just always been protective over me. I don't really have favorite memories. Like, I have a lot of things I really liked to do with Benjamin, but I really liked how he would help me, like with softball. Like, he'd help me work on my swing or catch. He just had been supportive with me.
Benjamin was very outgoing from the time he was young. One of my favorite stories is him going to the playground, and he must have been like 3 years old, and we get to the playground and there's kids on the playground. And, you know, some kids are kind of standoffish when they see other kids. They kind of have to warm up. Not Benjamin. He looks and he says, "Are those friends?" And I don't know these people from anybody else. I said, "I don't know." He goes, "I'm going to go find out." And he runs over and introduces himself. And next thing I know is that they're playing tag up and down the play equipment.
My favorite memory of freshman year of football, I remember towards the banquet. At the banquet, we went around stating our favorite memory. And I stated that my favorite memory was Stanwood. When we got rained out and that my helmet got knocked off. I got hit as a quarterback and my helmet was knocked off. And that was the last play of the game because it got rained out and thunder, lightning delayed the game and then canceled it. But that was such a fun experience. It was eye-opening since I started that game. This was the week after Cavallero, so I was going to start another game. I believe it was the week. I could be wrong. Don't quote me on that. But it was the week where I was starting once again, and we were not ready, or I was not ready. And it was definitely not the most fun that we didn't get to finish the game, but it definitely was a memory that was, it's counted for.
Well, for Ben is to do whatever he wants to do. He can do whatever he wants to do. I don't worry about him being successful because he has all the tools to be successful in life.
I hope he achieves his goals and dreams. I hope he keeps following his religion, and keeps taking that serious. I know he's really, thoughtful and committed to that. And I hope he gets a girlfriend. I know he's really scared of women, but he's got it, man. He's a good-looking guy.
My hope is for Ben to do whatever he wants, and I know he's really good at baseball, and I know he's going to be playing at the collegiate level for baseball, so I plan on maybe seeing a game or two of him playing, and I just hope he does well.
I want him to continue to love God and love others and use his gifts for others.
Continue his music career and baseball, and stay in contact with someone, and maybe marry and have kids.
My hopes for Benjamin in the future is this: that he just, for all my kids, I have never cared about what trade and what kind of dollar figure of a career that they can put up, but my heart and my desire is always that they would seek and trust the Lord in their lives. And that's the first and foremost thing, and that they would hear his voice and follow his leading. And so as a father, that's my biggest desire. Any of the careers and things that they do is the secondary thing. And so, but I do. I know he loves music. He's very naturally talented, and excited to see he's going to be studying music while playing baseball for the next 4 years.